Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface-level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
And welcome to the Kulturecast. I'm Chris Stachiw.
And I'm Sean Liang.
And Sean, it's January. Bond January.
Oh, man, that's great. There.
Yeah,
that was
right?
great. I wasn't sure, but I see it.
I see it now. And we're going to be talking about the first canonical James Bond film today, Dr. No, as the first film for January Bond January. But before we get to Dr. No, Sean. Yes. Have you been watching anything over the holiday break?
Have I seen anything new recently? No, I haven't. Man, I haven't been watching TV. I need to get back on that.
You should go watch Hateful Eight or any number of those movies that were leaked online.
That's true. That's true. I have been watching some Hoarders, but that's old news.
Oh, dear God. My favorite is My Strange Addiction.
I love that show.
Where a woman ate the ashes of her dead husband.
Oh, it's great. Oh, it's so good.
That's not the great is not the word I would use.
Oh, it's great sure. American television. Don't lie.
Oh God, that one where the woman is eating her husband's ashes is quite possibly the worst thing I've ever seen on television.
I'm telling you what, if you ever want to feel better about yourself and get your life in order and have some perspective, go to TLC.
Yeah,
they've got the shows
because you'll realize how much money is wasted on following human pieces of garbage around and how little it matters that you actually work for a living.
Right? Oh man,
yeah, right?
It's rough.
It's a truly depressing situation.
It really is. They scoop to the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, they do. What have I been watching this week? Well, I finally got around to watching Thor 2 this morning. And Iron Man 3 this afternoon.
Have you never seen Iron Man 3 before?
No, I hadn't seen Iron Man 3.
Okay.
I wasn't big on Iron Man 2 because Iron Man 2 was not good, except for Sam Rockwell's involvement. So I just watched those. Those were all right. Thor 2 wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. I still think that Chris Hemsworth can't act his way out of a paper bag, but that's kind of been seen in other movies we watched. It doesn't really even have anything to do with Thor.
Right.
And Iron Man 3 was all right. I wouldn't say it was anything really special.
Yeah.
It was, knowing that, that movie tries to bring some sort of finality to his character, and then you see him and Captain America fighting in the trailer for Civil War, that the finality that is there
isn't.
Yeah. And then I watched The Danish Girl last night.
How's that? I've been hearing mixed reviews.
Bad.
Yeah, that's mostly what I've
Eddie Redmayne is becoming the king of Oscar bait.
Right, and it's kind of a turnoff.
What, that Eddie Redmayne is essentially Oscar baiting every year? Yeah, I mean, this movie really is. I mean, it's one of the best cases of Oscar bait I can think of in a long time. I mean, after this year with Bruce / Caitlyn Jenner and kind of the trans movement becoming a thing with, Laverne Coleman off of Orange is the New Black and all that. This movie, on top of the fact that it feels like Eddie Redmayne Oscar baiting, the whole film just feels like Oscar
Yeah, it really
baiting.
does. I mean, there are some movies that go all out and you can totally see, and this is one of them. You can totally tell that's what it is.
Yeah. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I thought Eddie Redmayne's performance was really the best / worst example of when an actor is in a movie to try to get an Oscar nomination. Yeah. Good for him for knowing how to get the nominations and how to pander to the Academy.
Right. And he's a great actor, which is sad that I'm sick of seeing him now.
I think he's a good actor. I don't think he's a great actor. I think the people who write the scripts for the movies he's in are better than he is.
Sure, that's fair. But I mean, he is talented, and it sucks that like I just don't want to see it anymore. I'm just so like it's just he's like in everything now,
And well, let me put it this way. It probably doesn't help that the only two things I've ever seen him in are The Theory of Everything and this movie, both of which are just the panderingest amount of garbage I've ever seen.
I haven't even seen either of them yet.
Yeah. I would definitely not watch it. It's going to get some Oscar buzz, obviously, because of his performance as a transgendered,
of course,
person. I found it more offensive that he was a straight cisgendered man playing a man who becomes transgendered and becomes a woman. I found that more offensive that they couldn't have actually looked to the transgender community for someone,
right,
as opposed to just, oh look, let's just cast this actor who has kind of an androgynous look,
right,
to him.
Exactly.
And I can completely understand the transgender community's problem.
Well, absolutely. And that's kind of my point, I think, is that there's great talent that's not being, with opportunity like this, like there's great talent that can be used here, and it's not totally, it's the same thing over and over. And maybe that's the biggest turnoff, is that it's like, it's clear that they kind of stuck this guy in there because he's an Oscar, he's an Oscar nom,
And you know what? I'll go on record now and say that he's probably going to get a nomination.
Oh, I'm sure that's what this whole thing is for. Yeah.
Which is, what they were going for.
That's the point.
Yeah, congratulations. But yeah, that of the kind of the big kind of tentpole Oscar movies, that's the only one, Oscar nomination hopefuls. I mean, I think it's a little still too early to call, but I think that one obviously is going to get a lot of play.
Absolutely.
Just off the topicality of the kind of the film. That was kind of it. That's all I watched. That movie was 2 hours. Each of those movies I watched was 2 hours, so that's been
that's a lot.
Yeah, it's like 6 hours worth of movies. On top of this,
yes,
Dr. No from 1962. It is the first canonical James Bond film. It features Sean Connery, Ursula Andress, and playing an Asian man, though he's clearly white, Joseph Wiseman as the eponymous Dr. No. The IMDb synopsis for the film is: a resourceful British government agent seeks answers in a case involving the disappearance of a colleague and the disruption of the American space program.
My name is Bond, James Bond. My instructions were implicit. I was to leave for Jamaica in 2 hours. License to kill.
Now you maybe miss it.
You don't miss a thing.
I decided to accept your invitation.
I have to leave immediately.
Just as things were getting interesting again.
Now, before we talk about this movie, Sean, I want to know your experience with Bond and the Bond franchise.
Okay.
One of the biggest franchises undoubtedly in the world.
That's funny. I was actually really excited that we decided to make this month James Bond month because I had only seen like maybe one movie before. And I mean, other than that, my exposure is the video games, but like I'm sure I don't know anyone who grew up in the 90s that didn't play GoldenEye. So, but other than that, that's kind of my limited experience. I saw one of the newer movies. I don't remember. I keep forgetting which one it is. It's the one,
but it was a Daniel Craig one.
No, I think it was Pierce Brosnan. It was the one with the diamonds in the face.
Oh, so Die Another Day.
Yeah, that's Brosnan, right?
Pierce Brosnan's quote unquote worst James Bond.
Yeah, so
not my quote, most as people's quote.
I see. It was, kind of bored, watching it. There were some fun explosions and fight scenes, I think, but it just wasn't for me. And so I never really was into it. My dad, I think, was. And actually, my name was inspired by Sean Connery and a Chinese poet, actually. So my parents have watched these movies, but I never did.
So you're named after Sean Connery.
Slightly, yeah. I was between, because my dad loved his movies when he was younger, but he also there was also a Chinese poet, and my mom liked Sean Connery, I guess. So that was a inspiration for my name.
Oh, well, there you go. My experience with James Bond, I had seen, I think, all but one of the movies we're gonna watch this month. At some point, I know I've seen almost all of them. Sans maybe one or two. I think maybe I hadn't seen On Her Majesty's Secret Service with George Lazenby, but I've seen all of them. I have my kind of personal preference as to who my favorite James Bond is. Okay. Going into this month.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror. We'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Not having rewatched them in a while, my favorite James Bond, probably Timothy Dalton. But him and Pierce Brosnan kind of edge each other out every now and then. But I do have a real soft spot for Sean Connery, and rewatching this movie last night really reinforced that. But I mean, I love James Bond. There's just something about James Bond that's so kind of old school, cool, and, charismatic, and kind of, he's a little bit misogynistic, but you still can't help but root for him. It's good. I think James Bond is a really important movie franchise in that it really does kind of harken back to the good old days of action. At least it used to. And when we talk about the Daniel Craig films, I think we'll have a really long, drawn-out conversation about that.
Yeah, I'm sure. And this movie, just from watching this movie, I could tell that there's a lot of pop culture that was inspired by it, Mm-hmm. So that's cool.
So you'd never seen this?
I'd never seen Dr. No, huh?
So watching it for the first time, what did you think of it?
Well, it was cool. It's like I said, I loved, actually, I was worried, that I would be bored because this is totally out of my, I've never been like interested in seeing them. But I actually really liked it. I watched it with my drama teacher from high school, actually. And it was really cool to see because a lot of the imagery I had seen elsewhere before, but I could tell like this is where it came from, like I just like all the locations that it took us to. What is like a great spy movie, it's like the underground lair where there's like with giant fish and like with the aquarium and like the tropical island with this girl that just happens to be there in a bikini. It's just all the classic spy tropes. And it was cool to see in its heyday,
Mm-hmm. Well, and the first time that it ever, quote unquote.
Right. As much as that can be true, but definitely.
Yeah. Like I said, I had seen this movie before. I didn't remember it at all. I remembered kind of bits and pieces of it. Like I remember what happens to Dr. No at the end and kind of the whole thing with Ursula Andress coming out of the water. But, for a film from 1962, it still holds up.
I totally agree. I was totally in it right away because the deaths caught me off guard. They were so like, I didn't expect it. Like the first death, I was like totally taken back. Like when they get Stringways, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That just totally took me off guard. And then they got the operator. I was like, oh man, I'm in it. And then Quarrel's death, God.
They killed a woman in the first 5 minutes of the movie. I totally
didn't even see it coming. I was shocked. I loved it.
And I think it was probably shocking too. I mean, they straight up just like shoot her with a PPK in the stomach.
The pacing is so like abrupt. I loved it. It was really cool.
I really like this movie. It's one of those movies where, like you said, you run the risk of it being not aging well.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I feel like it really aged well for a for a film from 1962, especially the action. There are some kind of problems with the green screen when Bond is driving his car. It looks really goofy.
Yeah, but some of that makes it so kind of nostalgic in a way. I mean, I kind of love the film production quality, because even like with the tarantula crawling up him, you can tell that some of that is totally fake. But like the way that they do it, I don't know, even that like the shake or the the way he drives the car and it's not really turning in the same way that he's turning the steering wheel. It's kind of fun as the movie goer to see that, the way it used to be.
Well, and it's not like the film has a bunch of CGI and then it has him driving in front of a green screen. Yeah, it all works. It all works together to kind of make this film. But man, Sean Connery as Bond is one cool motherfucker. He really brings obviously this film sets the groundwork for every James Bond movie that ever comes out afterwards. And he does such a great job of setting that groundwork as Bond. He doesn't give a fuck. At one point, M is like, okay, your gun's a piece of shit. Your Beretta's a piece of shit. You need to start using the Walther PPK. And Bond is like, no, fuck you. I want to use my own gun. And then he like tries to take the gun out with him. And he's like, no, leave the gun. And Bond's like, you motherfucker. Like he's like walks off. You get the sense that Sean Connery isn't really acting.
Yeah, in this movie. It's very natural.
Yeah, which is good, because I feel like if you're playing James Bond, and obviously this being the first time James Bond is ever on screen in film, there needs to be a sense of, I don't know, he has to bring a sense of weight to the character.
He has to be in control of it.
While kind of having that, no fucks given attitude, because he doesn't give a fuck. Like, he beds every woman that he comes across in the movie, even women that are trying to kill him, which is awesome. As James Bond, as James Bond goes, there you go.
That's like the point. That's everything.
Yeah. But Connery, there's a reason people say Connery is their favorite Bond. And I think that this movie shows why people are still singing the praises of Sean Connery, 50, 60 years later as Bond.
He definitely set the stage.
What did you think of Joseph Wiseman as Dr. No, an Asian man being played by a clearly white guy?
It's one of those things that you like want to forgive, because I grew up in theater, and our excuse for those limitations is that our casting pool was pretty limited, and so that happens all the time. Guys will play girls. Hispanic people will play Asian people, just things like that will happen. But when you're looking at this film, where nowadays that's like just not, unless you're like Emma Stone, that's just not going to happen. It's just,
well, I mean, it still happens. Yeah. I mean, whitewashing in Hollywood is still,
it's definitely
a thing. As terrible as it is, it's still
exactly. It's just not so in your face anymore. You know what I mean? Or at least we've created some kind of social norm where like that was shocking for me to see. I was like that. There was no real attempt, and that was kind of. I read some of the director's notes, and they were kind of the actors were given notes to like not necessarily play Chinese, but to play the idea of like this like exotic. I mean, it's basically the way that they told. I saw from the women especially, they were kind of told to be like sirens, or like what the soldiers would lust after when they went to war. But that kind of makes it. They never went all the way and made it offensive. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel offensive. The intention isn't to be offensive. I don't feel that. It just. It's strange. It's strange to see. It's like Dr. No himself. He's more of a nod towards that culture, which is interesting. I don't know. When I first saw the three blind mice at the beginning of the movie, I was like, oh my God, is this going to be racist? And I don't know why I thought that. It's just that there were 3 black guys that didn't have a real purpose except for to kill this guy, and we don't know anything about them yet. So I don't know. It's interesting. It was weird. I don't know how I felt about it, but I wasn't offended.
I wasn't offended either. It's just one of those things where, like, in today's society, for the most part, that people would be offended by that.
Oh yeah, like if that happened today, if they cast that the same way,
because people are upset about movies like Exodus, Gods and Kings. People were pissed that Christian Bale and Joel Edgerton were playing Middle Easterners. That new film Gods of Egypt has the guy from Game of Thrones in it playing a Middle Easterner. People get pretty pissed about this stuff now.
I watched Ridiculous Six with Adam Sandler, you know, the on Netflix.
Oh yeah,
And that
I
got a
watched
lot
it.
of heat because he was playing.
Fucking
It
garbage.
definitely is. It totally is. But he got a lot of. I mean, I remember he got a lot of heat for the way they sort of exploited the Native Americans. But it's like those were the kind of those kind of movies had a heyday. You know what I mean? Those, and it wasn't out of. I mean, there was definitely a lot of ignorance and, you know, but I mean, like that was acceptable one time, you know? And it's interesting that it's definitely, there's a big change now in cinema, especially in mainstream cinema.
Oh, God. You mentioned Ridiculous Six, and I'm starting to have like flashbacks.
Taylor Lautner with the Southern accent.
Or Adam Sandler's wife with no bra on. Yeah. As a Native American
woman. That's right.
Yeah. She who wears no bra, her. Oh, God. Oh,
yeah.
God.
See, like, it's offensive garbage, but that used to be, like, the
norm, yeah. Even though that is the case in this movie where you have Joseph Wiseman playing an Asian guy, my problem with him as the villain is that he's just not around enough for him to really matter.
He was. I thought that when he has the dinner with him, I'm like, this villain is kind of he's
last 30 minutes of the movie,
the very end, and like he's kind of boring, and then he has this. His hands ended up being kind of cool because
like metal hands,
super
right?
Strong because of them, but like that wasn't even like that was the thing that was missing is that there wasn't that villain that because I didn't really. You kind of hear about him, but I didn't even notice him until at the end because I thought he showed up at the beginning of the movie, but I might be wrong.
I think that's my real qualm with this movie, and I do like this movie, is that for this being the first Bond film, they really kind of miss it with the villain, and Bond really is only as good as his villain that he stars opposite. And boy, I mean, it's just there's not a whole lot going on.
It's like kind of stepwise. There's like it's like one step to another, but we don't really know where it's going. Like for a while, like they're talking about like this dragon, and I'm like, okay, this is what we're getting to our the point here, and then we finally get to his lair, and then it feels like the end of the movie, like the big climax, and then we get this guy who's kind of bland, and he has these black hands. That's it.
Well, and I'm still not entirely sure what his big plan was. Was it to nuke England? Or
that's what I was confused about too. Bond. He says you're destructive and careless, and and all I remember him saying is that he was going to intercept this missile or this launch and then destroy this island once we've got what we need. And I'm like, that's all I heard. Like I could understand out of that. I couldn't really figure out what he wanted or what was happening.
Yeah. So I guess, he wanted to disrupt the Project Mercury space launch, but it's never said
exactly.
why.
It's just for
the only important thing that's set up in this movie is that he works for Spectre.
And that kind of hints at his intentions, but it doesn't really say,
Right. Well, and it also gives him a kind of bigger feel to it. But it just feels like so missed an opportunity.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. It's like they spent a lot of time setting up a really good spy movie, and like you said, they just kind of neglected to heighten their villain.
Yeah. And we talked about Joseph Wiseman playing an Asian man. I don't think his performance is particularly bad.
No, I didn't think so either. It was just kind of like
it wasn't much of anything.
It was sort of bland,
Yeah, for it being the first Bond movie.
And especially since we don't see him until the end. Like he needs to. I kind of wanted something a little over. I don't know. I kind of expected something over the top,
And the way he dies, it's pretty lame on top of everything else. He just kind of gets boiled to death by the water that's coming off the reactor.
That was a cool struggle, but then it was that sink into the water was sort of exactly how it felt.
He sank into the water because he couldn't use his hands. Couldn't use his metal hands to grip onto things. What a mistake you made with those metal hands, Dr. No. Right? The villain's one weakness is his own, quote unquote strength.
And that he brought on himself.
Yeah. What did you think of some of Bond's kind of people that he worked with in the movie? So what did you think of Ursula Andress as the as kind of the big deal Bond girl.
I really liked her, but I didn't realize that she was the big deal Bond girl, because she also comes like halfway through the movie, right? After he's like had these, like, I thought, who was the first one I saw? It was, Sylvia Trench. Is that her name? So I really thought she was going to be like, because I don't know, I've heard that name before. I thought she was going to be like the girl, and she was really fun. I liked her, like, playing poker. She was like kind of bitchy. I loved it. But then when we get to Honey Ryder, I kind of really liked her. And then I found out that her whole part was ADR, like dubbed over.
Yeah. Ursula Andress, you never actually hear her voice. Oh man,
because she's like sweet.
It's dubbed over by Nikki Van Der Zeel, who actually did the voice for Sylvia Trench as well.
That's crazy. I didn't even know that. But I kind of feel lied to. I feel like I don't really know who Honey Ryder is. But the look was classic, like I said, like that's what I think of when I think of Bond girl, but I'm so glad that you said that that was the actress that did the voice, because I loved her,
Well, and she also Nikki Van Der Zeel also revoiced Jane Seymour partially in Live and Let Die, Shirley Eaton in Goldfinger. She actually would go on to revoice Ursula Andress in another film, The Blue Max, which is a war film. I didn't know that either until I read it, and I was surprised.
They did a really great job. Like, honestly, I never would have known that if I didn't read that.
I liked Honey Ryder, though. She's kind of a, she kind of sticks up for herself.
She was a strong woman. She was fighting her way, she still got pigeonholed into like the mistress in distress, but she went down fighting,
Yeah. And obviously the Bond girl is, one of the tropes of the Bond movies. You have the villain, you have Bond, and you have the Bond girl. And so obviously, for the next month, we're going to be focusing on those three whenever we talk about the movies. But I think that Connery and Andress set a pretty good stage for what comes next.
I'm excited. Well, I'm excited.
Because, a lot of the movies, from having, watched most of them, a lot of the Bond girls, they're just damsels in distress.
Kind of just go along for the ride,
Yeah. What do you think of Jack Lord as Felix Leiter and John Kitzmiller as Quarrel?
I loved Quarrel. I was really, really shocked and sad when he was burned alive. That was really shocking. He was a great sidekick, you know what I mean? Like, it was kind of fun, and you knew who he was right when you saw him. And that kind of felt, it was kind of fun. It was like our Sancho that like joined the ride. I didn't know who was it is it Leitner? Is that how you say it? Let me see. Leitner.
Yeah, Felix Leiter.
I wasn't sure. I was worried about that setup because when I saw him, it took me a long time to realize who he was, and even at the end, my friend I was watching with had to tell me who it was. But I heard he was in something else that was like a big deal at the time. I can't remember what it was.
Jack Lord was.
That's what it was. That's what it was. That's interesting.
Yeah, he played Steve McGarrett in Hawaii Five-0. So, and there were some questions as to whether or not Bond was going to look not as cool as Felix Leiter because
of who
was playing Felix Leiter.
That's really cool. I thought I'm glad I didn't know, because Sean Connery was cool as hell in this movie. I loved him.
No, he was. He really exuded cool without even having to try.
And he still is. Like, he still would be. He's such a, and like, I don't know, I just love it. It's such a great time for gentlemen in that. I love the suits and everything.
Well, he's wearing the suit, he drives the cool car, and he's just, he's an all-around, kick-ass cool dude, the kind of dude that, I'm not sure you'd want to have a beer with, but
he's just like, even in the action in this movie, it's always like, maybe it's like the character he created, but like, it was so cool that even for the action, he was so low key with it,
So let's talk about the action and the kind of the big set pieces in the film. What did you think of some of the bigger? So
I absolutely loved Dr. No's lair, because I thought it was so. It was, like I said, it was like such a trope that it was under like hundreds of feet underwater, and there's like a tank of what did he say, like that Max like made these huge minnows. I don't know. It was just so funny. So classic, the huge pool in the middle of this giant control center. It's just so classic. It's so what you would expect in a movie like this. and it made it so fun for me to watch. I don't know, just like the secret or like the chamber that they were climbing through with the weird lighting. I loved it. I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing about this movie that is so great is that it does, like we've been talking about, it does set up the tropes that every other Bond film will follow, more or less. You know, from the kind of the eclectic, weird henchman like the photographer or the three blind mice, you know, or to the layer, you know, his layers underwater. Then in oh god, You Only Live Twice. His, you know, the layer is inside of a volcano, which is parodied on The Simpsons. That's and awesome. All kinds of stuff. Yeah, this movie does set the kind of the gold standard for where Bond goes from here, and I think that the movie's a little light on action, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because of how good Sean Connery's performance is. But it is a little light on the action,
definitely. But that's not how I didn't expect that. Also, you know, like you said, with his performance, this is like it's more fun to see the spy in this case. So I mean, it was right. It was minimal on the action, but like I said, I liked that. I think that worked for this movie especially.
Well, and you know, I mean, when we get to the new films like the Daniel Craig films, the character of Bond is kind of taken a backseat to the action. The character of who Bond is as a person takes a backseat to kind of upside down helicopter chases through the streets of Mexico, and you know, and that's fine. But at the same time, I think Bond as a character is kind of an interesting character. I mean,
everyone knows his name.
He's not just a blank slate. He's not just a blank slate that everyone kind of projects what they want onto. He's an interesting character. He was written as an interesting character by Ian Fleming. And I think that this movie focusing on setting up who Bond is, especially in those first couple scenes with Bernard Lee as M, I think that that's one of the better parts of the movie. Because, you know, this is Bond's first mission. And you could draw parallels between this movie and Casino Royale, because he's now a 007 in this movie, and Casino Royale, the Daniel Craig, he just is now a 007 agent. But I think this movie really is, you know, having watched some of the more recent Bond films more recently to kind of prep for some of the later stuff in this month, this movie really is a well done film. And some of that credit really needs to go to Terence Young and Richard Maybaum, who would write a lot of the James Bond movies. From Dr. No, then you have From Russia with Love. His final film would be License to Kill in 89. So he'd be writing Bond films for the better part of, you know, 36 years.
That's like a lifetime, man. Like,
right. Yeah. You know, and that shows in this first movie, just right off the bat, is they have a really good idea of who the character of James Bond
definitely
is. And I think that, you know, Connery is just, he's great. He really is great in this film.
Yeah, I'd never really seen him in at this age, especially. And I thought he was such a perfect, like, classic example of who James Bond is, and I really did like him. It was really fun. He was such a cool, suave, smooth guy.
He was, and you know, unfortunately, Sean Connery would kind of get typecast after this movie, right? But as Bond's first outing, and you know, the first of 24 films, and it essentially launching the secret agent genre. I think it's a really great film that really does hold up.
There's a reason why it inspired so many other films and
imitators. A lot of imitators. And man, that James Bond theme.
Oh, that's another thing that we didn't even talk about. Oh, I loved that, because that was another thing that I could relate to instantly as a person who didn't, you know, grow up watching these movies. And I did grow up playing Goldmember, and so, or GoldenEye.
Oh god, not Goldmember. No.
It reminded me of that actually. I saw how a lot of Goldmember came from this movie. But and so that theme song is so a part of James Bond too, and what these movies are, and it was so cool to hear, you know, behind these totally classic sets, and like the what's her name, the girl, is it Tara? I don't know. The Asian-ish assistant of the professor, and that's Miss Tara. I loved her house, like just this. It was so a set, but it was so I don't know. I just loved it. With that music behind it, it was the greatest.
Well, and this is the first Bond movie, and it doesn't even have an intro song.
Oh, that's right.
It just has the it just has the James Bond
theme,
the extended theme. And obviously from here on they would do a themed a song for each film, kind of themed off the title of the film. But I think for the first film, the James Bond theme is just great. It is, as soon as you hear the movie start and the music, it stops you dead in your tracks because of how iconic it's become.
That's how it was for me, and seeing this for the first time now, it kind of gives you goosebumps, and you're like, oh, I know what I'm watching.
And and James Bond wears a fucking hat. Like, I thought that was pretty badass. Him wearing a hat.
See, I didn't even notice. It didn't even stick out to me. That's so cool.
Him and his little cap. And the woman who plays Moneypenny, Lois Maxwell, would be Moneypenny until 1985. Wow. A View to a Kill. Yeah. The movie's just great. Everything about this movie is really good, and you understand why this movie was so successful looking at it now. And really why people have picked Bond, Connery as their favorite Bond. I think we're both in agreement. Totally. Watch it. Best performance.
Oh man, that's hard. In spite of everything, I really did. Once Honey Ryder came into the picture, it really, really super felt like a James Bond movie to me, and what in my mind what I thought a James Bond movie was. So I really liked her, and it's like with all that happened, and without me even noticing, I really loved Ursula Andress. So I'm gonna give it to her. I really thought she was really fun, and my favorite, I think, of this movie.
And let's make a rule from here on out: we can't.
Okay, fair,
James
because
Bond.
That's kind of a given.
Yeah. I really like Jack Lord as Felix Leiter. He seems like a cool dude.
Yeah, he did.
With kind of the cool hair and kind of the way he plays off of Bond. And Felix Leiter is one of my favorite characters in kind of all of the Bond films. He's played by a number of people throughout the history of Bond. Most recently, he's played by Jeffrey Wright in the new Bond films. But he's such a kind of cool dude in this movie.
Very quiet, mysterious.
Yeah. I like him. He's a cool dude. So for me, it's definitely Jack Lord as Felix Leiter. What do you think the film's rating is on Rotten Tomatoes?
Oh man. Okay. I'll say like a 75. 74, 70, something like that.
96%.
I never know.
That's real good.
Especially with the critics.
Oh, yeah. No. Totally.
You never know.
Featuring plenty of humor, action, and escapist thrills, the series would become known for. Dr. No kicks off the Bond franchise in
This is one of the, fan favorite movies, isn't it? Allegedly.
Well, I mean, I think that it's the first one. It's...
like we said, it did such a great job setting the tone for the rest of,
Yeah, I've known people that like Dr. No the best, but I also know people who like some of the other Connery Bond films. I would say that of the Connery Bond films, this is one of two that we're watching. The other one that we are watching is the non-official James Bond film that was not made by United Artists. And that film was Never Say Never Again, which was based on Thunderball, which Connery would be in. But it's the non-official one, which is the other Connery Bond film we'll be watching when he was in his 40s or 50s. But I could see people saying that this is their favorite. And it would make sense to me. You wouldn't have to defend it very hard, for sure. Well, before I talk about Thursday's Kulturecast, Sean, is there anything you want to plug?
Oh, not yet. It's a new year. It's a brand new baby year. But I would say, as always, you can follow me on Twitter, Seanifer, or on Facebook, Sean Liang, and I will post all the updates as they come.
For me, you can follow me on Twitter at Kulturestash, and go check out our wrap-up over on the site for December. So Bad They're Still Bad month. It was a rough month for us. I think we're happy to be past
that might be another reason why I really enjoyed this movie a lot.
It's because we finally watched a good movie.
You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. This movie, it feels so great to be watching a movie that's good.
It's like a tall drink of water.
Yeah, it's a nice change. And this Thursday, we're going to be talking about Never Say Never Again, the unofficial James Bond movie. Was not produced by Eon Productions. It had Sean Connery in it again, returning, but it wasn't part of the Bond canon. But it's an interesting film, I think. I've seen parts of it, never the whole thing. I know that it has Max von Sydow in it and Kim Basinger.
Ooh.
And Sean Connery as like a 50-year-old man. So make sure to check that one out.